The janitor thought no one saw her, not the way she wiped tears off her face between mopping the marble floors, not the way she whispered prayers over her daughter's hospital photo taped inside her locker. But someone was watching. Dressed in cheap coveralls and silence, Gabriel Ward, the company's billionaire CEO, had gone undercover to see how his empire truly ran. What he discovered that night in the empty hallway would break him and rebuild everything he believed about success, dignity, and love.
Morning light flooded through the glass tower of Ward Dynamics, scattering diamonds of reflection across marble floors. The building was a monument to success, 70 floors of ambition, arrogance, and sleepless dreams. People hurried through its corridors with earbuds in and coffee cups trembling in their hands. High above them all sat Gabriel Ward, the name etched on every glossy business magazine, the man whispered about in boardrooms. Visionary, billionaire, unreachable. But at that moment, Gabriel's reflection in the window didn't look visionary at all. It looked tired. His tie was straight, his schedule full, and his life painfully silent. His father's framed quote hung crooked on the wall. "If you can't feel it, you can't fix it." He stared at it for a long time. Somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten how to feel. When his assistant, Harper, came in, she found him sitting at his desk, the monitor dark. "Sir, the numbers—" "Later," he interrupted. She hesitated. "The board is expecting—" He cut her off again, voice hollow. "Harper, when was the last time you saw happiness in this place?" She blinked. "Sir?" "Exactly." That was the end of the conversation. By sunset, the billionaire who built the empire disappeared from sight, and by midnight, a man named Gabe Willis, wearing cheap coveralls, worn sneakers, and uncertainty, clocked in for his first night as a maintenance worker. The night shift started when the rest of the world ended. Inside the janitorial lounge, the buzz of vending machines filled the silence. The smell of bleach clung to the air, mixed with old coffee and exhaustion. Isabella Ruiz tied her hair into a bun and rolled up her sleeves. Her uniform was too big, the stitching frayed at the cuffs, but her spirit never showed the wear. She moved with quiet rhythm, graceful, efficient, practiced. Her locker door swung open. Inside hung a photograph of a little girl with dark curls and bright brown eyes, Sophia, age 8. Taped beneath it was a hospital bracelet and a paper star colored in crayon. "For Mommy, keep shining." Isabella pressed her lips to it gently. "Another night, mija. We're going to make it. I promise." The door behind her squeaked. A tall man stepped in, fumbling with a mop handle. "Sorry, didn't mean to sneak up on you." Isabella turned, studying him. His uniform was clean, hands too smooth for the work. "You knew?" He nodded. "First night." "Then welcome to the part of the building no one talks about," she said with a tired smile. "Name?" "Gabe Willis." "Isabella. Stick with me, rookie. I'll teach you how to survive this place." He chuckled. "I've had tougher jobs." She raised her eyebrow. "Not like this one. Here, you're invisible. That's tougher than it looks." They started their rounds. The floors gleamed under harsh fluorescent light. In one hand, Isabella held a mop. In the other, the calm dignity of someone who'd long stopped expecting to be seen. "Been here long?" Gabe asked, wringing his mop. 12 years. Must like it." "I like eating," she said lightly, then added, "and my daughter likes medicine." Her tone was factual, not bitter, but the weariness underneath was unmistakable. Gabe slowed his work. "She's sick?" "Sophia," Isabella said softly. "She was born with a heart condition. We're waiting on another surgery. Waiting costs money."
She smiled, the kind that hides pain behind grace. But she's brave. Braver than me. Gabe studied her quietly. He'd read charity proposals and medical reports his whole career, numbers on a spreadsheet, but he'd never heard desperation sound so human. The hallway lights flickered. Isabella knelt to scrub a stain near the elevator. The thing about floors, she said, is they remember everything people try to step over. Spills, dirt, tears. We make it disappear so everyone else can pretend their world's spotless. He wanted to answer, but the lump in his throat stopped him. When she stood, she winced and pressed a hand to her lower back. "You okay?" he asked. "Just tired. Long week." She glanced at him. "You're not bad for a first-timer. You listen more than most." "Trying to learn the rhythm," he said. "Good," she replied, nodding toward the shining tiles. "This job is all rhythm, like dancing with the same song every night." They worked in silence after that, a silence full of meaning. At 1 a.m., Gabe found her alone in the supply room, sitting on an overturned bucket, staring at her phone. The screen showed a hospital app with a new message. Her eyes glossed with tears she tried to blink away. "Bad news?" he asked softly. She startled, wiped her eyes quickly. "It's nothing. Just insurance delays again. They won't schedule her surgery until I pay half up front." Half. Like I keep that kind of money next to the bleach. Gabe shifted uncomfortably. "Don't they know what you're going through?" "They know," she said, voice trembling. "They just don't care." Her phone buzzed again. She turned it face down and stood, smoothing her uniform. "All right, rookie. Break's over. The world won't clean itself." He hesitated. "Isabella?" She looked up, a faint smile ghosting across her face. "Don't worry, Gabe. I'll be fine. I always am." Then she picked up her mop and walked away, shoulders straight, eyes forward, leaving Gabriel standing there, surrounded by cleaning supplies and the echo of her bravery. Later, as the shift ended, Isabella hung her mop, whispered a prayer to the little photo in her locker, and clocked out. Gabe lingered behind, staring at her empty workstation. The smell of disinfectant lingered, but so did something else. Humility, strength, truth. He looked at his reflection in the polished metal door. For the first time in years, he didn't recognize the man staring back. Have you ever met someone who kept smiling through pain? Tell me in the comments, what's the strongest act of courage you've ever seen in an ordinary person?
Rain returned the next evening, needling against the glass tower until the whole skyline looked like it was weeping. Inside Ward Dynamics, most lights had gone dark, except for the glow that kept the janitorial floor alive. The hum of buffers, the slosh of water, the smell of lemon cleaner, midnight music for the invisible. Isabella Ruiz moved like a ghost through marble corridors. Her ponytail was damp, her eyes heavy, but she still hummed under her breath, a lullaby that always ended with Sophia's name. Duérmete, mi amor. In the reflection of the lobby window, Gabe Willis watched her work. She didn't know that the man beside her was Gabriel Ward, owner of the building, the company, the empire. He had spent his career measuring worth in productivity reports. Tonight, he measured it in the tremor of her hands. "Long night?" Isabella said, setting her mop upright. "They all are. Doesn't it ever get easier?" She gave a small laugh. "It's not supposed to. It just gets quieter."
They crossed the hall where portraits of past CEOs stared down in perfect suits. Their eyes followed Isabella, indifferent, immortal. She didn't notice. She was too busy cleaning the smudges on the glass. "Do you ever wonder," Gabe asked carefully, "if any of them know your name?" She glanced up at the portraits, then back to him. "They don't have to. My job is to keep their floors shining, not to be remembered." Her words settled like dust, light but impossible to ignore. At 12:30 a.m., they took a break in the supply room. Isabella poured instant coffee into paper cups. "Here," she said. "You look like you miss caffeine that costs more than your shoes." Gabe grinned, accepting it. "You can tell?" "I can smell the privilege," she teased gently. Then her smile faded. "Don't mind me. Long week." "Anything you want to talk about?" She hesitated, fingers tightening around the cup. "Hospitals don't care that you're tired. They just care that you're late with payment." She pulled out her phone and showed him a photo. Sophia in a hospital gown, tiny hands forming a heart shape. "She keeps saying she wants to be a nurse so she can help other kids like her. I keep saying she will be, even if I have to mop heaven itself to pay for it." Her voice cracked on the word heaven. She looked away quickly. "Sorry, didn't mean to dump that on you." Gabe's chest tightened. "Don't apologize. You're doing everything right." "Then why does it feel like I'm failing her?" she whispered. Later, while Isabella cleaned the executive lobby, her phone buzzed. She checked it, froze, and pressed the device to her ear. "Dr. Mendez? Hi, it's Isabella Ruiz. Please tell me she's okay." Silence. Her other hand gripped the mop handle until her knuckles whitened. "What do you mean the treatment's postponed?" Pause. "No, please, she's scheduled for next week. You can't—" Pause. Her knees buckled. "I'll find the money. Just don't take her off the list." She hung up slowly, staring at the dark phone screen as if it had stolen the air around her. Then she pressed her palms against her face and broke. Gabe stood behind the corner, frozen. Every sob was a hammer against his chest. He had heard crying before, investors, partners, ex-lovers, but nothing like this. This was the sound of a mother bargaining with the universe. He stepped forward, then stopped himself. She didn't need a witness. She needed relief. But he had no words that wouldn't betray who he really was. Isabella caught her breath, wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her uniform, and whispered, "Okay, mi vida. Mommy's strong. Mommy's strong." She rose, adjusted her ponytail, and returned to work as if the breakdown never happened. Gabe's throat burned. He wanted to shout, "You shouldn't have to be this strong alone." Instead, he bent down, picked up the mop she'd dropped, and began cleaning beside her in silence. They worked that way for an hour, neither speaking, the rhythm of the mops like slow breathing. Finally, Isabella said quietly, "Thank you for not asking what that was about." Gabe looked at her. Some things don't need questions, they need witnesses. She studied him for a moment. "You talk strange for a janitor." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I used to listen more than I talked." "Well," she said, returning the smile, "you're good company, Gabe. Most people avoid me when I'm like this." "Maybe that's when you need people the most." Something softened in her eyes, a recognition of kindness she hadn't felt in years. At 3 a.m., the building's automatic lights dimmed. The lobby shimmered under the rain-streaked windows. Isabella sat on the edge of the fountain, exhausted. "You ever feel," she said, "like life keeps giving you storms and forgetting to teach you how to swim?" "All the time," Gabe said. "But sometimes the storm's the only thing that teaches you." She looked at him curiously. "You sound like you've seen both sides of the world." He exhaled slowly. "Maybe I have. Maybe I didn't like what I saw." Before she could respond, her phone chimed again. A text. "We'll hold Sophia's spot 48 hours if payment clears." Her hand shook. 48 hours. That was all. She tucked the phone away and whispered, almost to herself, "I need a miracle." Gabe's heart twisted. He realized that in every file, every report, every number, there were thousands of Isabellas living under his decisions. People who needed miracles while he built skyscrapers. He stared at her as she rubbed her temples and whispered a prayer in Spanish. The janitor under the flickering lights looked more powerful than any board member he had ever met. When the shift ended, Isabella handed him his time card. "See you tomorrow, rookie." He nodded, unable to speak. She turned to leave, the echo of her footsteps trailing down the hall like a heartbeat fading into dawn. Gabe stayed behind, standing in the middle of the spotless lobby. The floor reflected both of them, her courage, his guilt. He whispered, "Tomorrow, I start fixing this." Sometimes we walk past people who are fighting battles we can't see. Have you ever discovered someone's hidden struggle and it changed the way you look at the world? Tell me in the comments below.
The next evening, the sky hung low and colorless, clouds heavy with unspoken rain. Inside the Ward Dynamics building, every surface gleamed from the previous night's labor. It should have been a good night, the kind where silence and routine blend into something steady. But the silence between Isabella and Gabe wasn't steady. It pulsed like a bruise. She didn't greet him with her usual smile when he arrived. No joke about rookies or spilled coffee. Just a curt nod and the soft squeak of her mop bucket wheels echoing down the hall. Gabe hesitated near the locker room door. "Evening." "Yeah," she said without looking up. He tried again. "You okay?" "I'm fine." But her tone said otherwise. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was embarrassment wrapped in armor, the kind that comes when someone's seen you at your weakest. Gabe followed her down the corridor, hands in his pockets. "If this is about last night..." She stopped, eyes flashing. "It's not." "You don't have to pretend it didn't happen," he said softly. "I have to. Because if I start crying here again, I'll never stop, and this building doesn't pay for tears." Her words hit hard, each syllable trembling with control. She pushed her mop forward, faster now, as if cleaning could erase what he'd witnessed. But her hands shook, and she spilled water across the polished tile. Gabe knelt instinctively to help, grabbing paper towels. "I've got it," she said sharply. He stayed kneeling. "Isabella." "Please," she whispered, voice cracking. "Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm broken." He froze. The hallway was quiet except for the hum of the air vents. She pressed her palms to the floor, wiping the water away with trembling strokes. "I've spent my whole life trying not to need anyone. I can't start now. Not because you saw me fall apart one night." Gabe wanted to say that strength wasn't about hiding pain, but he could see it. The pride in her eyes, the desperate need to keep her dignity intact. So he stood, quietly handing her the towels. "All right," he said softly. "I didn't see anything." She looked up, startled by his gentleness. He forced a small smile. "But if you ever need someone to listen, I'm better at that than mopping." For a moment, something flickered between them. Gratitude, confusion, maybe trust. Then she looked away. "We should finish the floors." Hours passed in tense silence. They worked opposite ends of the building, the distance between them heavy. At one point, Gabe found her in the executive boardroom, polishing the long table where power lived. She moved carefully around each chair, muttering numbers under her breath. "What's that?" he asked. "Budget math," she said with a half smile.
Trying to figure out which bill I can ignore this week without losing the lights. Seems unfair. She shrugged. Fair left the building a long time ago. He leaned against the doorframe. You ever think about doing something else? Every night, she said, wringing out her rag. But dreams don't pay for surgeries. Her words echoed. Gabe glanced at the windows where the city lights shimmered like unreachable stars. What about help? I don't want help, she said harder again. Because people offer it to make themselves feel good, not because they care. And when they get tired of you, they disappear. Not everyone's like that. She stopped cleaning. You talk like someone who's had the luxury to believe in people.
He didn't know how to respond. She exhaled slowly. I'm sorry. That was rude. No, he said quietly. That was honest. Later, they shared a small dinner in the break room, instant noodles and vending machine chips. Isabella sat with her arms folded, staring at the floor. You ever wonder, she said suddenly, if life punishes good people just to see how long they'll keep smiling? Gabe looked at her. Maybe it's not punishment. Maybe it's proof. The world breaks the kindest people to see what they're made of. She tilted her head, a faint smile appearing. You sound like a poet. He chuckled. Maybe I'm just someone who's tired of watching good people suffer. She studied him, suspicion flickering in her eyes. Who are you, Gabe? He froze. She laughed softly, breaking the tension. Relax, I'm kidding. You just don't talk like the others. Most of the janitors complain about back pain and football. You talk like you've read too many philosophy books. He smiled, relieved. Maybe I did, once. Well, stop it. You're making the rest of us look bad. They both laughed, quietly, but it was real this time. When the shift ended, Isabella slipped her phone into her pocket, exhaustion heavy in her eyes. I'm sorry I snapped earlier. I can't stand pity. My whole life people have looked at me like I'm one sad story away from falling apart. I didn't see pity, he said gently. I saw courage. She looked up. You really believe that? Absolutely. Her lips trembled in a smile she tried to suppress. Careful, rookie. Keep talking like that and you'll start making this place feel human again. He watched her leave through the service exit, her small figure disappearing into the rain. For the first time, he realized that pride was her armor and compassion his. That night, Gabriel couldn't sleep. He stood in his penthouse, city lights flickering through the rain-streaked glass. His hands were clean now, but he still smelled bleach. Her words replayed in his head. Don't look at me like I'm broken. He whispered to his reflection. You're not. And for the first time, he wondered if the company he'd built was broken instead. Sometimes pride is the only thing keeping someone standing. Have you ever pushed people away just because you were afraid they'd see your pain? Share your thoughts below. Someone reading might need to hear your story.
The night began like every other. Quiet, efficient, ordinary. The hum of floor polishers filled the lower level while the city outside throbbed with neon and rain. Isabella Ruiz moved methodically, earbuds dangling from one ear, a tired smile tugging at her lips. Her body ached from double shifts, but habit kept her graceful. She had cleaned these floors so long they almost recognized her footsteps. Across the hall, Gabe Willis worked beside her, silent but watchful. The air between them still carried the ghosts of pride and apology from the night before, but it was softer now, like a bruise beginning to heal. At 1 a.m., she reached to wipe a high window stretching onto the small aluminum ladder. The bucket below trembled. "Careful," Gabe called, noticing the wobble. "I've done this 1,000 times," she said, smiling down. "These ladders just like to remind me they're older than my paycheck." The words had barely left her mouth when the rubber foot of the ladder slid on the damp tile. The bucket tipped. Water splashed. Isabella gasped. Then came the sound, the sickening crack of metal against floor, a thud, and silence. Gabe dropped everything and ran. "Isabella!" She lay on her side, breathing fast, clutching her ankle. Water spread across the marble like a silver sheet beneath the fluorescent lights. "Don't move," he said, kneeling beside her. "I'm fine," she hissed, trying to sit up. Pain shot through her leg. Okay, maybe not fine." He pulled off his jacket and slipped it under her head. "You hit hard. Let me see." "I said I'm fine," she repeated, jaw tight, voice trembling more from embarrassment than pain. "Just twisted it. I'll be okay." "You can't stand." "Watch me." She gritted her teeth, tried to push up, and instantly winced. He caught her before she fell again, one arm around her shoulders. The contact startled them both. "You're shaking," he said softly. "Because I'm cold, not because I need help." He almost smiled. Her pride was relentless, even when she was hurt. "Then let me warm the floor while you sit there being completely independent." She tried to glare, but laughter escaped instead. "You're impossible." "And you're stubborn," he said, tearing open the small first aid kit hanging on the wall. "Good match." He wrapped her ankle carefully, his fingers gentle. She winced once, then stared at him. "You do this a lot?" "Long time ago. My mother used to twist hers working double shifts. I learned because she never stopped to rest." "Sounds familiar," Isabella whispered. When he finished, he sat beside her on the cold tile. The storm outside rattled the windows, thunder echoing through the empty building. They sat there, two silhouettes under fluorescent light, one woman too proud to cry, one man too guilty to explain why he cared so much. "Do you ever slow down?" Gabe asked quietly. "If I do, everything falls apart." "Maybe it already did," he said gently. She shot him a look. "You think I don't know that? I can't afford to fall apart, Gabe, not when she's counting on me." "I know." "No, you don't," her voice cracked. "You don't know what it's like to hold your kid's hand while machines breathe for her, to count quarters for bus fare and pray the nurse doesn't notice you skipped dinner again." He swallowed hard. "You're right. I don't know. But I'm listening." Something in his tone disarmed her, the sincerity, the absence of pity. She leaned her head back against the wall, eyes closing. "You ever wonder if God put some of us here just to test how much pain a person can survive?" "I used to think that," he said. "Now I think he puts us here to show each other mercy." She opened her eyes, studying him. "You say things that make me want to believe you. Then believe me." Rain tapped harder on the glass. He took off his sweatshirt, draped it over her shoulders. She didn't protest this time. After a long silence, she murmured, "If you tell anyone about this, I'll mop you into the floor." He chuckled. "Your secret's safe." They both laughed softly, the kind that breaks tension more than it entertains. An hour later, the on-site nurse arrived. Gabriel had called quietly from the maintenance phone. The nurse examined the ankle and shook her head. "Sprained, not broken. You need rest for at least a few days." "Can't," Isabella said quickly. "If I miss work, I lose pay." Gabe stepped forward before he could stop himself. "I'll cover her shifts." Both women looked at him. "You?" Isabella said incredulously. "You can barely push a mop straight." He grinned. "Then I'll learn faster." The nurse laughed and packed her kit.
You've got a good friend, Miss Ruiz. Isabella didn't answer until the nurse was gone. Why would you do that? Because you'd do the same. She looked away. Maybe, maybe not. He helped her to the small lounge, propping her leg on a chair, making tea from the break room kettle. She watched him move, awkward, careful, deliberate. You're strange, Gabe. Strange good or strange bad? Strange kind, she said. The world doesn't make many like that anymore. By dawn, her breathing had evened out. She'd fallen asleep in the chair, head tilted, face soft in the half-light. Gabe sat across from her, watching the storm fade into a pale sunrise. He thought of all the years he'd spent hiding behind spreadsheets while people like her carried the company on their backs. His chest ached with something that felt dangerously like purpose. He whispered, "You shouldn't have to do this alone." She stirred slightly, eyes still closed. Then don't let me. He froze. She wasn't awake, just dreaming, but the words landed like a promise. And somewhere between the rain and sunrise, Gabriel Ward made a silent vow. Whatever it takes, I'll make this right. Sometimes help isn't weakness, it's love in motion. Have you ever been too proud to accept help until someone refused to walk away? Tell me in the comments. Your story might remind someone they're not alone.
The next morning, sunlight scraped across the glass towers of Chicago like a blade, cutting through the city's fog. Inside Ward Dynamics, the hum of ambition returned. Employees in sharp suits, voices crisp, coffee bitter. But Gabriel Ward, CEO of the entire empire, sat in his penthouse office in silence. He hadn't slept. Isabella's voice still echoed in his head. You don't know what it's like. She was right. He didn't. But he would. He logged into the employee record system, something he hadn't done personally in years. A few keystrokes, and he found it. Isabella Ruiz, Maintenance Department, night shift. 12 years of service, perfect attendance, 0 complaints. Base pay, $14.25 an hour. He frowned. That couldn't be right. Ward Dynamics was supposed to be one of the highest-paying employers in the region. At least that's what the press releases said. He dug deeper. Overtime reports, unpaid leave requests, declined medical claims. The screen filled with data that felt like accusation. He saw the rejection notice. Employee request for medical financial assistance denied due to non-eligibility under Tier C coverage. Tier C, the cheapest insurance plan his own policies had introduced to cut costs. His chest tightened. My cost savings. Gabriel stood abruptly, pacing. For years, he'd told himself he was improving efficiency, increasing profits, helping the company thrive. But what was thriving worth if people like Isabella were breaking beneath it? He called in his head of human resources, Thomas Blake, a man who had served Ward Dynamics for decades. Thomas, Gabriel said, trying to steady his voice, I was reviewing some of our employee files. Thomas smiled, polite and nervous. Doing a surprise audit, sir? Something like that. Gabriel swiveled his monitor around. Why is Isabella Ruiz being paid less than $16 an hour after 12 years? Thomas blinked. Yes, Ms. Ruiz. She's part of the contracted maintenance staff, sir. They're technically employed through an external vendor. Keeps our internal headcount lean. So she works here full-time, every night, but doesn't actually belong to us? That's one way to put it. Gabriel's voice dropped. And her medical insurance? Handled by the vendor, not our department's responsibility.
Not our responsibility, Gabriel repeated, the phrase tasting like poison. Thomas shifted uneasily. Sir, these systems have been in place for years. You approved them yourself. I know. Gabriel's words didn't sound powerful. They sounded guilty. After the meeting, he couldn't concentrate. He left the office early, pulling a hoodie over his head, and returned to the place he'd started this journey, the janitorial break room. The smell of bleach and old coffee wrapped around him like penance. He sat at Isabella's usual chair, staring at her locker. It was slightly dented, the number fading. A sticker of a cartoon heart covered the crack. He reached out and gently opened the door. Inside hung the photo of Sophia, smiling despite the tubes on her small face. Next to it, the paper star she'd colored. For Mommy, keep shining. Taped beside it was something new. A hospital invoice. $18,742.23. Marked in red, past due. Gabriel's stomach sank.
There were smaller notes tucked in, receipts, prayer cards, a drawing of a nurse with angel wings. On the bottom shelf sat a lunchbox holding exactly one apple, a sandwich cut in half, and a small toy stethoscope. He picked up the stethoscope and turned it in his hand. Cheap plastic, scuffed, but it felt heavier than gold. That's when Harper, his assistant, appeared at the doorway. Sir, what are you doing here? He looked up sharply, still holding the toy. I asked you to keep my presence quiet. I did, she said softly. But the night shift supervisor saw you come in. Is everything all right? He stared at the stethoscope, his voice quiet. Do you know who cleans your office at night, Harper? She frowned. I can't say I've ever met her. Exactly. He closed the locker gently. She's been here 12 years. You've been here 6. She probably knows more about this building than any of us. Harper said nothing. Gabriel turned toward the window. Watching the rain start again outside. We built a company that rewards people for pretending others don't exist. That ends now. Sir? He faced her, eyes hard with determination. I want a full report on every contracted employee working under this roof. Wages, medical coverage, hours, everything. I want it on my desk by tomorrow. Heading up. Harper hesitated. That's thousands of names. Then start typing. And Harper, make sure Isabella Ruiz is on the top of that list. Later that night, he couldn't resist checking on Isabella in person. He returned undercover, slipping through the side entrance as the rain thickened into mist. She was there, sitting on a stool near the janitor's closet, ankle-wrapped, humming softly while she organized supplies. He stood quietly for a moment, watching her. She noticed him and smiled faintly. You're late, rookie. I almost thought you quit. Never, he said, forcing a grin. Just had some things to take care of. You look tired. You okay? He hesitated, just learning some things I should have known a long time ago. She chuckled softly. Welcome to adulthood. He knelt beside her, pretending to fix the mop handle. If someone could change the rules, the ones that make people like you work this hard for so little, would you believe it? She paused, studying him. I'd want to, but believing doesn't pay rent. Maybe it could. Now you sound like a politician, she teased gently. Don't do that. You're better as the quiet type. He smiled, but his eyes stung. Yeah, maybe. As she turned back to her work, he watched her hands move, graceful, steady, beautiful in their purpose. He realized then that Isabella Ruiz had never been invisible. The world just refused to look long enough to see her. That night, Gabriel wrote a note and slipped it into her locker before leaving. Thank you for reminding me what real strength looks like.
G. He signed it only with the initial, leaving her to wonder. But by morning, he would make sure that strength was rewarded, not ignored. Have you ever discovered how someone's pain was connected to something you could have changed? Sometimes the truth breaks you just enough to rebuild you right. Comment below. What's one small injustice you wish the world would finally fix?
2 days after the accident, the Ward Dynamics night floor sounded different. The echo of mops and buffers was still there, but laughter, small, hesitant laughter, kept slipping through the corridors. Isabella Ruiz limped carefully on her wrapped ankle, one hand steadying herself on the cart. "If you tell anyone I'm working before I'm cleared," she said, "I'll deny it." Beside her, Gabe Willis rolled his eyes. "You mean if I tell anyone you're breaking doctor's orders, I'm the one in trouble?" "Exactly." He shook his head, grinning. "You're terrifying, you know that?" "Good. Keeps people from offering pity." But there was humor in her tone now, a warmth that hadn't been there before. The accident had cracked something open, and instead of anger, sunlight had seeped through. They cleaned the upper atrium together. Outside, the city glowed beneath a rare, clear sky. Moonlight spilled through the glass roof, turning the marble into silver. "You ever look at this place from up here?" Isabella asked. "Only from the top floor," Gabe admitted. "Figures. You'd be surprised what you miss when you're always looking down." He smiled, catching the double meaning. "Guess I deserve that." She shrugged. "I'm not judging, just saying the view's different when you're the one scrubbing it." He watched her as she worked, slower now, careful, but graceful even in exhaustion. There was something mesmerizing about how she existed in motion, worn down, yet defiant, tired, yet still beautiful in the quiet dignity of someone who kept showing up. When she caught him staring, she laughed. "What?" "Nothing," he said quickly. "Just, you make this place look alive." "That's bleach fumes talking," she teased. "No," he said softly. "That's truth." For a second, their eyes met. Then she looked away, cheeks flushed. Later, they took a break in the glass-walled cafeteria. The vending machines hummed softly. Isabella poured instant cocoa into 2 paper cups. "Coffee is for survivors," she said, handing him one. "Cocoa is for dreamers." "Which one are you?" "Both," she said with a small smile. "Depends on the day." They sipped in silence. He finally asked, "How's Sophia?" "She's good," Isabella said with a spark of pride lighting her face. "Her nurse says she's drawing again. You know what she drew yesterday? Me, with a cape." Gabe chuckled. "Supermom. She said I saved the day with cleaning spray. That's honestly beautiful." Isabella laughed quietly. Then her voice softened. "I just want her to grow up believing that hard work matters, that kindness isn't weakness, that people notice even when they don't say it." "They do notice, maybe more than you think." She looked at him curiously but didn't press. "You've got a strange heart, Gabe." "Strange good or strange bad?" "Strange rare," she said. "Most men don't listen. They fix or flee. You just listen." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm trying to learn something from you."
When the clock struck 2, they wandered into the executive lobby. Isabella sat on the edge of the indoor fountain, trailing her fingers through the water. Her reflection shimmered beside his in the ripples. "You know what's funny?" she said. "All these rich people walk by this fountain every day, and not one of them's ever dropped a coin in. Maybe they don't believe in wishes. Then they've forgotten the best part of living. What's that? Hope." She fished a penny from her pocket and pressed it into his palm. "Here, make a wish." He closed his fingers around it, the metal warm from her skin. "You first." She grinned. "That's cheatin'. Ladies first." She thought for a moment, then whispered, "I wish Sophia never has to see the world at its worst." She tossed the penny, watched it sink, then nodded toward him. "Your turn." He hesitated. "I wish I'd met you sooner." She blinked, startled. "Why?"
because maybe then I would have remembered what being human feels like. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was sacred. They talked for hours after that, about small things, real things, childhood memories, favorite foods, the best and worst smells in the world. I loved the smell of rain and fresh bread, Isabella said. Rain and bleach, Gabe replied with a grin. It's growing on me. She laughed until she coughed, then leaned her head against the cool marble wall. You ever think maybe we meet people for a reason? Every day, he said. What's mine? To remind me what grace looks like. She opened her mouth to reply, but no words came. Instead, she reached out and touched his hand. Just for a moment. You're a strange man, Gabe Willis. Maybe I'm finally the right kind of strange, he said softly. Dawn crept in, pale and golden. Isabella stood by the windows, staring out at the waking city. Sometimes I think the world only sees the shine, never the hands that make it. Then maybe it's time someone changed that. And who's going to listen to us janitors? You'd be surprised who's listening. She studied him, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes, as if a part of her almost recognized something deeper. You talk like you know something I don't. He laughed softly. Maybe I just believe you deserve better. Don't make promises you can't keep. Maybe this one I can. They stood in the golden light, two souls who'd crossed from strangers to something gentler. A bond built not on pity, but on shared humanity. When she finally left for the morning, limping slightly, but smiling, Gabe lingered behind. He dropped another coin into the fountain, this time a silver dollar, and whispered, "For her and for me to get this right." The coin sank slowly, the ripples spreading until the reflections of both of them shimmered together. Sometimes the people who fix the smallest messes heal the biggest hearts. Who in your life reminds you that kindness still exists? Share their name or story in the comments. You might make them someone else's reason to believe.
The following night began with a calm that felt suspicious. The storm clouds had cleared, leaving the city glassy and bright. Inside Ward Dynamics, the corridors shimmered under new LED lights, a small, expensive project quietly approved that morning by one man with a guilty conscience. But Isabella Ruiz didn't know any of that. She only knew that she felt lighter than she had in years. For once, she didn't dread clocking in. She had a friend now, someone who listened, who saw her. She hummed as she polished the glass doors, unaware that everything she believed about Gabe Willis was about to collapse. In the corporate penthouse, Harper set a stack of documents on Gabriel Ward's desk. "Sir, the press team needs a statement about the new wage review program." He signed it quickly. "Make sure it includes night maintenance staff, retroactive pay increases." Harper blinked. "That'll cost millions." "Then it'll cost millions." He rubbed his temples. "Also, transfer $20,000 anonymously to the Children's Mercy Hospital under patient ID Sophia Ruiz." Harper froze. "Sir, the Ruiz case? The janitor's child?" "Yes." Her voice softened. "Does she know?" "No," he sighed. "And she can't. Not yet." But the glass office had an open door, and down the hallway one of the senior accountants, unaware of secrecy, was discussing the transaction with a manager. Isabella, delivering cleaning supplies to that same floor, heard it. "Donation from the CEO himself, Sophia Ruiz, the janitor's kid. Guess he's got a soft spot." Her heart stuttered. CEO, Sophia Ruiz, donation? It couldn't be. Could it? She stepped back, nearly dropping her cleaning rag, and pressed her hand against the wall. Her mind spun. Gabe. Gabriel. Ward. She remembered his words. You'd be surprised who's listening. The world tilted. She waited by the supply closet, breath shallow, until his footsteps echoed down the hall. When she saw him, still in uniform, still pretending, it felt like betrayal wearing kindness's face. "Evening,"
he said, smiling softly. "How's the ankle?" She stared at him, voice trembling. "Who are you?" His smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "Don't." She stepped closer, her tone sharp. "I know. I heard them talking. The donation, the company, the CEO who suddenly cares?" He froze. "Isabella." "No!" Her voice cracked, echoing off marble. "Don't you dare say my name like we're equals." He opened his mouth, but she kept going. "All this time, you were testing me, studying me, some social experiment to make yourself feel better about sleeping in penthouses while people like me clean up your world?" "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it?" she demanded. "Pity? Guilt? You saw me cry and thought, 'Poor little janitor, let me throw some money at her problem'?" His voice rose, desperate. "I did it because I care. You don't even know me." "I'm trying to," he shouted back, then softened instantly. "I wanted to understand, to fix what I broke." "You don't fix people," she said bitterly. "You just pay them off and move on." The silence that followed was unbearable. She took a shaky breath. "Do you have any idea how humiliating it is to know my child's hope came from the same man whose company denied her care?" He flinched as if struck. I didn't know. Not until you. Not until I saw you. Then maybe you should have opened your eyes sooner." Tears filled hers, but she refused to let them fall. She lifted her chin, the same pride that had once protected her, now cutting her in half. "Do you think a check makes this right? You can't buy forgiveness, Gabriel Ward." He stepped closer. "Then tell me how to earn it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You can't." She turned away, but he reached out, stopping just short of touching her arm. "Please," he said quietly, "don't walk away like this." "Like what?" she said without looking back. "Like someone who thought you were different?" She started down the hall, her limp sharper with each step. "Isabella!" She spun around, eyes wet but fierce. "You know the worst part? For the first time in years, I believed in someone. I thought maybe kindness didn't come with strings. But you were the boss the whole time. You were the reason I needed saving." Her voice broke. "And you played janitor." The weight of it hung between them, heavy and merciless. Then she was gone. Gabriel stood in the empty hall, the silence louder than any storm. The reflection in the glass looked back at him. Expensive watch hidden beneath a janitor's sleeve, heart cracking beneath the suit of power. He whispered, "I was trying to make it right." But the building didn't answer. The next night, Isabella didn't come to work. Her locker door hung open, the photo of Sophia gone. In its place was a note. "People like me don't belong in worlds like yours. Thank you for pretending we did." He read it twice, then folded it with trembling hands. For the first time since he'd taken over Ward Dynamics, Gabriel Ward canceled every meeting. He sat alone in his penthouse, staring out over the city he'd built, feeling smaller than ever. All the glass towers and glowing signs suddenly looked like guilt stacked to the sky. Later that week, he visited the hospital quietly, wearing his disguise again. Through the glass window of the pediatric wing, he saw Sophia laughing as she colored another paper star. Isabella sat beside her, reading aloud from a tattered children's book. She smiled, but her eyes were tired. He pressed his hand to the glass, whispering, "I'm sorry." Sophia looked up and waved, mistaking him for a janitor passing by. He waved back, tears blurring his vision. Then he walked away. Sometimes the truth we hide to protect someone is the very thing that breaks them. Have you ever trusted someone only to find out they weren't who you thought they were? Share your thoughts below. Your story might help someone heal.
The city woke beneath a pale dawn, the light thin as forgiveness. For 3 days, Gabriel Ward had not stepped foot in Ward Dynamics. He sat in his penthouse, surrounded by silence, no assistants, no board, no pretense. Just the man beneath the suit and the echo of Isabella's last words. You can't buy forgiveness. The sentence looped in his mind until it carved through every defense he had built. He'd spent a lifetime fixing problems with numbers, but some wounds needed confession, not compensation. On the other side of the city, Isabella Ruiz stood in her small kitchen, wiping down the same counter she'd cleaned 1,000 times. The radio hummed softly beside her. Sophia sat at the table, drawing with colored pencils. "Mommy," Sophia said, "are you mad at the nice man from work?" Isabella froze, cloth midair. "What?" "The one who always smiles when you talk about him. The one who helped when you hurt your foot." Her throat tightened. "I'm not mad, mija. I'm disappointed." Sophia kept coloring. "Daddy used to say being disappointed means your heart wanted to believe someone." Isabella closed her eyes. The ache behind her ribs deepened. "Your daddy was a smart man." "Then maybe you should forgive him," Sophia said, voice small but certain. "Because maybe he didn't mean to hurt you." Children had a way of slicing straight to truth. Isabella kneeled, brushing a curl from her daughter's face. "You have too big a heart, Sophia." Sophia smiled. "I learned from you." At noon, Gabriel arrived at the building not as the CEO, not as the janitor, but as both. He wore a simple gray suit, no tie. His security detail trailed behind, but he waved them off. Employees turned as he passed. The man who rarely left the executive floor was walking among them, eyes focused, heart pounding. He called an emergency meeting, not in the boardroom, but in the open lobby where the janitorial carts lined the walls. When everyone gathered, confusion murmured through the crowd. Gabriel stepped forward, microphone in hand. His voice was low, steady, raw. "For years," he began, "this company has measured success in profit margins and quarterly gains. But last week I met someone who reminded me that numbers mean nothing if they come from the broken backs of people we ignore." Whispers rippled. He continued, "She's one of our own, a woman who has given 12 years of her life to this company, raising a daughter, working nights most of us never see. I disguised myself as a janitor to learn what it really means to build something worth pride. What I found was shame, my own." He paused, voice trembling. "Her name is Isabella Ruiz, and I owe her and every person like her more than I can ever repay." Gasps, then silence. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I will earn it. Effective immediately, all contracted maintenance staff are full employees, with health care, with dignity." Applause erupted, hesitant at first, then thunderous. Gabriel stepped back, breathing hard. But one face was missing. Isabella. That evening he went to the hospital again. This time, no disguise. Sophia spotted him, first through the glass. "Mommy, the man from work!" Isabella turned, startled. She froze when she saw him standing in the doorway, hands trembling at his sides. She rose slowly. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you," he said. "I told you—" "I know," he interrupted. "You said I can't buy forgiveness. I'm not here to buy anything."
He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "This is the official paperwork. Full employment benefits, full coverage, and back pay. For everyone, not just you." Her voice cracked. "Why?" "Because you were right. Because I built something that forgot how to care, and because I don't want your daughter to think the world only rewards cruelty." He swallowed. "You changed me, Isabella. You showed me what strength looks like. I can't undo what I've done, but I can spend the rest of my life trying to deserve the chance you gave me to see it." Tears welled in her eyes. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," he said, stepping closer. "Because kindness shouldn't come with strings, not even regret." For a long moment they stood in silence, the hum of machines around them, Sophia's laughter in the background, the steady rhythm of two broken people finding the same heartbeat again. Then Isabella exhaled, shoulders trembling. "You're still a stubborn man, Gabriel Ward." He smiled softly. "Takes one to know one." Her lips curved, almost a laugh. "If I forgive you, it's for Sophia's sake. She believes in good people." "Then I'll spend the rest of my life proving she's right." Later that night, after he left, Isabella sat by Sophia's bed. The girl was asleep, clutching a paper star. Isabella unfolded the corner, and in Sophia's messy handwriting were the words, "Good people come back." She pressed the paper to her chest and whispered, "Maybe they do." Outside, through the hospital window, she could see Gabriel's car waiting by the curb. He didn't drive off right away. He sat there, looking up at the same window. When she lifted the paper star to the glass, he smiled faintly. It wasn't reconciliation yet, but it was a beginning. Sometimes forgiveness isn't saying, "It's okay." It's saying, "I'm willing to start again." Would you give someone a second chance if they truly changed? Tell me in the comments. Your answer might give someone the courage to reach out.
6 months later, the lobby of Ward Dynamics looked different. Not because of the gleaming marble floors or the cascading light from the glass atrium, but because of the people who now filled it. Receptionists, custodians, managers, mechanics, accountants, standing side by side as equals. The plaque above the reception desk read, "Ward Dynamics, built by every hand." Below it hung a photograph of employees smiling together. At the center stood a small woman with dark hair and bright, proud eyes, Isabella Ruiz, holding her daughter's hand. Today, the company was hosting its first employee appreciation ceremony in its 100-year history. And for the first time, the founder's quote engraved on the wall actually meant something. "If you can't feel it, you can't fix it." In the back of the room, Gabriel Ward watched quietly, his hands clasped behind him. He wore no tie, no arrogance, just gratitude. The event wasn't about him anymore. It wasn't about shareholders or media optics. It was about people like Isabella. She stood at the podium now, nervous but radiant. Sophia sat in the front row, her cheeks rosy, a small bandage on her wrist where an IV had once been. "6 months ago," Isabella began, her voice trembling, "I thought I was invisible." A hush swept the crowd. "I thought hard work only mattered when someone else decided it did. But then, someone decided to see." Her eyes flicked toward Gabriel briefly. Not anger now, but quiet acknowledgement. "I don't know what makes a person change, but I know what keeps the world going. It's kindness. Real kindness. The kind that doesn't ask for applause or forgiveness or anything in return." Applause filled the hall. Sophia clapped hardest, grinning at her mother. Isabella smiled at the crowd. "We all keep this place running. Every broom, every spreadsheet, every idea. So tonight we celebrate every kind of strength."
She stepped down from the stage to a standing ovation. After the event, the lobby slowly emptied, laughter echoing down the corridors. Isabella lingered by the fountain, the same one where she and Gabe had once made wishes in the middle of the night. The water shimmered with light from above. She felt a presence beside her before she saw him. "Beautiful speech," he said quietly. She turned to him. He looked older somehow, not in years, but in humility. "You listened," she said. "I promised I would." She nodded, tracing the edge of the fountain with her fingers. "You did more than that." "I just followed your example," he said softly. "You showed me what real leadership looks like." She smiled faintly. "Funny, I was just doing my job." "And you changed a company. Maybe even me." There was a pause, not awkward, but full of meaning. "Did you mean it?" she asked. "What you said that night? About earning forgiveness day by day?" "Every word," he said. She studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, a crumpled paper star, faded from being carried too long.
Sophia's handwriting still shone faintly. "Keep shining, Mommy." She handed it to him. "Sophia said you should have this." He frowned softly. "Why?" "She said it's for people who stop pretending the world's perfect and start making it better." He swallowed hard, emotion flickering in his eyes. "I don't know if I deserve it." "Then earn it," Isabella said with a small smile, "like you said." He held the paper delicately, like something sacred. "I will." They stood there in the soft hum of the fountain, the city lights glinting through the glass. "You know," Isabella said quietly, "I never thanked you for what you did, for Sophia. You don't have to." "I know," she said, smiling, "but I want to." He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time there was no wall between them. No hierarchy, no guilt, just two people who had both been broken and rebuilt by compassion. He gestured toward the crowd still mingling in the lobby. "You belong here, Isabella. You always did. The rest of us are just catching up." She laughed softly. "You're getting good at this whole human thing." "Best teacher I ever had," he said. Later that night, when most had left, Gabriel walked alone through the empty corridors. The building no longer felt like his. It felt alive, full of stories he'd never listened to before. He passed the janitorial lounge, its door now gleaming with a new plaque, "The Break Room of the Builders." Inside, someone had left a small gift on the table, a cleaning rag folded neatly beside a note. "Even the highest floors need humble hands." He smiled, tucking it into his pocket. Outside, the city breathed around him, street lights glowing, sirens distant, the rhythm of life pulsing again. He found himself at the hospital a few blocks away. He didn't go inside this time. Through the glass, he could see Sophia in the lobby, spinning beneath the light, her laughter filling the air. When Isabella turned and saw him through the window, she raised a hand, not a wave of goodbye, but acknowledgement. He smiled back, mouthing, "Thank you." She nodded, then pointed upward toward the night sky, where the first stars were appearing. He followed her gaze and whispered, "Keep shining." The same words that had once been scrawled on paper now lived as a promise between them, proof that redemption isn't a grand gesture, but a quiet, consistent choice. Sometimes the richest people are the ones who sweep floors with grace, and the strongest leaders are the ones humble enough to listen. In a world that forgets to see, be the one who remembers. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments, what does true wealth mean to you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back for more powerful stories that remind us how kindness can change everything.